as we get closer to the announcement for the Department of Homeland Security Non-Profit Security Grant for the year 22, we go on to the next phase, which is more of a critical part, which is the security assessment. So the whole purpose of this grant is for you, your site, to justify why the federal government should invest the funds to protect your site over other sites as well. Now, we know very well that there was a shortage last year in the funds available. $180 million was appropriated by the US Congress and $400 million was applied for. That worked out to a national average of 46%. What that means is that your application has got to be very, very solid, well written, well thought out. And we break down the actual application into, the application basically breaks down into a few parts, and this is why it's important to do this under professional guidance or advice. Could you do it yourself? Absolutely, there's no question. There is just a lot of work and know-how and the knowledge. Additionally, there's always a short amount of time. So how it works is that, you know, right now there's an appropriations bill that's going to be announced, and then if awarded, then part of the appropriations bill for funding will allocate a certain amount to FEMA and DHS for this grant. In turn, they divide that up by states, and the allocations, let's say it's 180 million. As an example, New York State could get 40 million of that, and that's going to be divided up by all the sites who apply. So there's a very short window of time from when FEMA is notified by Congress what the amount's going to be, and in turn they go to what's called the SAAs, or the State Administrative Agencies. These are the emergency management offices of your state that will be processing the grant on behalf of FEMA. You do not deal direct with the FEMA, you go through the state. There's a bypass. So in essence, you're dealing with two agencies. You're dealing with a state agency and the bureaucratic process that goes through with that, and also in turn with the FEMA. So it's important to really get all the pieces in place. When we get to the application itself, this is how it works. So first of all, the first thing you need, we tell people all the time, get a security assessment. There are a few ways you could do this. You could do this with law enforcement. You can have your local law enforcement agency come out. I'll speak to that in a second. You could get out a private security agency who could do it. And thirdly, there's even a self-assessment that you could do as well. So with regards to law enforcement, we love law enforcement. We work with them very, very closely in many, many states, and there's definitely a lack of consistency with the way that they do the assessment. Even from within the same department, you might find that there's a disparity in the format. It could be a simple one page with a checklist that they're doing. Do you have windows, fences, lighting, alarms, and so on. It can then go on to versions such as SEPTID, which is a more detailed environmental design approach. That could be 30-40 pages. I've seen some that are even more than that. But the whole point ultimately is that with the law enforcement, you're not all sure what you're going to get. But usually there's no charge, and you should be doing this anyway. You should always get the security assessment for law enforcement. Whether or not it's going to be great for your grant, that's a different question. Number two is private security agencies. Generally, also I see different standards there, but in my opinion, these are a little bit more thorough. The third way is to do a self-assessment is allowed. I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, could you do it? Yeah, but that's kind of like representing yourself in court. It's not like, you know, hire a lawyer. So I would ask you to go to either private security or law enforcement and leave it at that. When you get the assessment, the critical thing is the items, the vulnerabilities, which is the whole purpose of what you have to demonstrate, are highlighted and specified. You're asking for funding that's going to fix the issues and the challenges that make your site a soft target. So you're going to harden that target with the items you are proposing, what we call a budget to FEMA. The assessment also helps you have a working document of knowing where you're weak and where you're strong, and you can apply that in other ways and apply it to your training as well. But ultimately, for the grant purposes, your assessment must identify your weaknesses that you have there, the items that you're applying for, because you can choose what are called budget items or AELs, authorized equipment list, items that could be doors, windows, fences, cameras, alarms, PA systems. Last year was radios, armed security officers, planning, training and exercises, so you could actually train your staff as well. So there are nuances as to what we recommend you would do as far as a percentage, what would work and what wouldn't. But ultimately it's got to demonstrate what's going to work for your site, what's going to keep your site safe. So the assessment is the critical part for you to have an understanding, working knowledge, and it's the basis of having a very strong, solid, and more critically, a successful application for the DHS NSGP this year. We're hoping it's going to be 150,000 per site, and we're also hoping that Congress is going to listen to many requests and communications that we've had. We recently had a Chabad Rabbi, Rabbi Konikoff in South Orlando, who testified to the committee that oversees this grant, and to give his perspective on the grant as well. And there are challenges post-award as well, so it certainly isn't as simple, but the whole first goal is to get you that award. So make sure you have a good, solid security assessment.